Hello there, welcome to this tutorial on how to make a mug using polygonal modeling tools and the subdivision surface. First, let's load in our reference image. So we're going to find our mug references and go to our 4-panel view by clicking on this button or clicking on the middle mouse button. And we're going to click and drag and drop it into the right view. Now, this image actually has a transparent background, so we need to go to Mode, View Settings, and the Back tab. And in the alpha mode, we need to change that to normal so that it recognizes the fact that the background is transparent. We're going to now move our image so that this right-hand side of the mug is center aligned. So in the offset X, we're going to bring it to the negatives until we get to negative 245. Now, clicking on the front view, we're going to do the same steps. Instead of negative 245 for the front view, we only want this one. It is just going to help us align the handle, so we want that at negative 82. Okay, perfect. Now let's bring out a cylinder because it already has most of the shape of this mug, so it's going to make modeling it easier. So taking out our cylinder, we're going to make it shorter in the height until we reach 167 centimeters. And then for the radius, we're going to increase it to 67. And you can see that this matches both of our reference images. The next step here is to decrease the rotation segments because I want to be able to extrude the polygons directly on the right side of this cylinder. And if we rotate around it to that Z axis, let's turn on display garage shading with lines, you will see that the current rotation segments at 16 does not have a polygon that aligns to that Z axis. But if I decrease that to 14, we'll see that now there is a polygon right at the center, so we're going to use 14 as the rotation segment. And it's okay that this is going to give us these jagged edges because we are going to be putting this into a subdivision surface anyways. You can see that this has height segments. I want to reduce that to just one, so it's just going to be one long polygon because I want to manually create those edges. So now that I have this, I'm going to press here for make editable, and using my loop cut, KL on my keyboard, or I can go to my polygon mode, right click and find loop cut down here. I'm going to make cuts around the area where this handle is, but I want to make symmetrical cuts. So I'm going to check that on, and you will see that now if I make a cut up here, I will also get a cut on the bottom. So I'm going to make a cut here and get 2 cuts, and then another one closer to the bottom of each of this handle. Well, the bottom of this handle and the top of this handle. So now you see that these loops that we just created are exactly the size that we're going to extrude. Okay, now that we have this here, we're going to select these polygons that are right in the middle of the Z axis. So this one, and then hold shift and this one right here. And we're going to do an inset by pressing I on our keyboard, clicking and dragging to the left. And we just want a small inset to separate that big polygon from these smaller ones that are going to be our handles. Now that we did that, we're going to press D for an extrusion, and then clicking and dragging to the right anywhere outside of the viewport, we're going to create our handles. So letting go, we're going to create first this bit of the handle. So let's change to our point mode, and using our rectangle selection, we are going to be moving these little bits that we extruded so that it matches the reference image a little bit better. So I'm going to select these with my rectangle selection so that it selects through, make sure visible only is checked off. Select these with my rectangle selection, press T for my scale and scale them up until both of them are touching the reference image. And I will do the same thing with the top one. So I'm going to select both of them. Look at the perspective, they're both being selected. If you do this by mistake, you can do Control-Shift-Z to undo that rotation. Then again, pressing T, I am in point mode. Click and drag up so that these are touching the reference better. Then going back to polygon mode, I will continue to extrude. So press D for extrude, click and drag towards the right, and I will let go here. Then another extrusion, clicking and dragging around here. And I will now position these points so that they start meeting in the middle. So again, point mode, rectangle selection, select this point and select this point and get it close to the middle around there. Then select this point and select this point and scale them close. So this is how this should be looking. And now I will do one more extrusion. So go into polygon mode, press D, click and drag towards the right. Obviously we have to fix these, but I want these to start facing each other. So I'm going to go to my point mode, select these points, scale them together and move them back. Select these 2 points, scale them together and move them forward. So you see that these are now facing each other better. And now these last two, to connect it, I'm going to use the bridge tool, which is a tool that connects polygons, points, and lines by creating a bridge through them. So I'm going to right click here in my perspective view, go to bridge, and then selecting the bottom left point. So the point is there, but we can stay in polygon mode. Click and drag to the top left of the other polygon, and once I let go, you will see the cinema will bridge those two together. And now that is our handle. So let's make that cylinder a child of a subdivision surface so that we can fix our handle properly now. So you see that subdivision surface immediately rounds our handle. It looks pretty good. I'm just going to, in my point mode, select these points and drag them out a bit, and select these points and drag them out. I'll do a quick render preview to see how this is looking. Okay, I will leave it like that. Okay, so now I want to get this little shape here. So what I'm going to do, because there are no points here for me to manipulate, and I don't want to grab this one because it will ruin the rest of the shape, I will create a new edge there. So I'm going to right click and go to my loop cut, make sure symmetrical cut is checked off, and I will click somewhere here, let's say around 40%. And I will do the same thing up here, and I'm going to do 40%. However, up here, the 40% went forward, so I'm actually just going to do that 40% backwards. So I'm gonna subtract that from 100, so it's gonna be 60%. So it's gonna be closer to the left. And now that I created those points, I can grab both of them and push them out so that they resemble that shape a little bit closer. We can also, I think, move them in a little bit more. Okay, great. So now let's create the actual hole for our mug. So go into polygon mode. Let's select every single polygon on the top with our brush selection. Press I on your keyboard for inset. Press Q on your keyboard with your cylinder selected, and this is going to deactivate the subdivision surface so we have a better view here. We're going to click and drag towards the left, anywhere outside of the viewport, then press D, click and drag down until we get close to the bottom, but do not go past the bottom. Okay, and now we're done with the extrusion, so I'm going to activate my subdivision surface again. I'm going to take off my garage shading, and before we're done, we have to tighten some of these edges. As you can see here, this does not look exactly like a mug edge, so we have to fix that. So using our loop cut to tighten these edges, we're going to create a cut close to the top on the outside, and then one close to the top on the inside. Then going down here, we're going to create a cut near the bottom. I'm going to press Q to deactivate so I can see where the cut is. Look at the difference that makes. And I will make another one up here. Big difference. And then same thing here in the bottom. I want to tighten this edge. So I'm going to create a cut on the outside here and then one on the bottom here. A quick note that you're not stuck with any of these cuts that you're adding to your mug. So for example, up here, if I feel like this is a little bit too flat because I sharpened it too much, I can always go to my edge mode. I will deactivate my subdivision surface, select UL for my loop selection, select that edge, reactivate so I can see what is going to be affected by me moving this, and then move it down or up, right? So I'm going to move it down so that this is softer. Same thing here. UL to select this loop, press E for the move tool, and then move it down to make this a little bit softer. You can do the same thing with any of these that you feel like you want to fix further. You can rotate them, you can scale them, and you can move them until you're happy with it. Okay, now we're going to add a material. And before we send it to Picture Viewer, let's make sure that the subdivision renderer is increased to 3 so that the subdivision is run through another level for the Picture Viewer, but that does not affect us here in the viewport. So once I change that to 3, I will get a render of this.